my voice goes croaky at all during this video. I've been back at work a couple of weeks, and as you know, I work in a germ factory, so I'm forever picking things up, and yeah, I keep going a bit We'll hope it doesn't happen. Now, on to the actual subject of this video. I recently saw a tweet on Twitter from an idiot man, and that's a kind way of describing him, who basically said you're not a real fan of Star Wars until you've done this big, long list of hardcore things, and only then can you call yourself a real fan. And I had a typically mild reaction to that tweet. I have a real issue with this kind of gatekeeping that happens in seemingly almost all fandoms, partly because I am almost always late to the proverbial party when it comes to fandom, with the exception of the TV show Friends, which I really vividly remember watching the pilot episode for when it originally aired, and then became a fan of and watched the entire show until it ended. Almost everything that I consider myself a huge fan of had existed for at least a while before I got into it. The Manic Street Preachers had been around for at least 8 or 9 years before I really got into them. Doctor Who had existed for a whopping 42 years before I ever got properly into it. And even Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which I consider myself to have been a fan of almost since the beginning, at least a few episodes of the first season had been on Netflix before I found them. And another example, I only read the Harry Potter books like 2.5 years ago, and same goes for seeing the films, and I love those. I'm just always late to the party. Now I know Idiot Man on Twitter didn't say, in fairness, you're not a real Star Wars fan unless you were there at the very beginning and you saw the first film in the cinema, but his weird gatekeeping attitude is exactly what stops people who've just discovered something and are interested in finding out more from actually becoming a fan, because they feel like there's this big troll on the bridge going, "Halt! You cannot be accepted into this club until you have checked off all these things on my ridiculous list." It's just a really easy way to push someone away from something they may have really enjoyed. For example, the biggest fandom in my life, as most people who watch this channel know because the channel is literally named after my love of it, is my absolute adoration for the band the Manic Street Preachers. But if somebody came up to me and told me that they had just discovered the Manics, the conversation would probably go like, "I've started listening to the Manics and I really like them. That's so cool. Oh, listen, I've got loads of books and DVDs and stuff, so if you want to borrow anything to find out more, just like ask me and they're yours if you want them." I love it when people discover the Manics. What's your favourite song so far? It would definitely not go like this. "I started listening to the Manics and I really like them." You can't call yourself a real fan. Well, I like what I've heard so far. You won't be a real fan until you have made a pilgrimage to Blackwood, until you have written an extensive theory on what happened to Richie, you've had an argument with somebody about the edit in The Underdogs, you've read every single piece of literature they've ever referenced, and you've had their lyrics tattooed about your person, like me. Almost nobody is going to want to stick around long enough to discover all of the joys of a film franchise or a TV show or a band if you insist that they can't call themselves a real fan of that thing until they've ticked off a load of things on some unattainable list that has the potential to suck all the joy out of discovering something new. After all, who wants to become a fan of something if they're going to be constantly told they're not doing it right? Besides which, there are levels to fandom. Not everybody gets into something and instantly becomes obsessed. For example, I have lots of bands that I can think of that I really like. I own albums by them, I listen to their music and I really enjoy it, but I haven't necessarily been to see them live. I don't necessarily even have an interest in going to see them live. Maybe I would if they were around the corner from me, but I probably wouldn't travel a long distance just to see them because as much as I enjoy their music, they're not my absolute favourite. Doesn't mean I'm not allowed to call myself a fan of them just because I haven't got the book that the lead singer once wrote about his time in the band, or because I haven't been to see them 97 times. It just means that my fandom is on a different level, and that's okay. I can be into a band or into a TV show or enjoy a film franchise without needing to be absolutely hugely obsessed with it, and that doesn't actually reduce my enjoyment of those things. And at the end of the day, isn't that what fandom is about? Enjoyment. What I'm trying to say is there are different levels to fandom and they're all fine. You can be obsessed and crazy in love with your favourite band or film or book or whatever, as long as you're not hurting anyone else or yourself in doing so, just as much as you can like a book series or really enjoy the music of a band but not feel the need to become hugely obsessed with them. It's fine. It doesn't matter. You can still call yourself a fan. You're just a fan to a different degree. You can be there from the beginning of something and watch it grow and be like, wow, I've loved this ever since it existed. Or you can find something that's been around for ages and suddenly go, oh my God, how did I not know about this? This is amazing. And both of those things are okay. What's not okay is gatekeeping and telling people you're not a real fan unless you've done this, because all it does is stop people wanting to discover more. And whose right is it ever to stop somebody from finding out more about something that could give them enjoyment? Essentially, the amount that somebody else enjoys a thing that you really love has really got no impact on the amount that you enjoy it. So if somebody came up to me and went, I like the Manics, I think they're really good. I've got most of their albums. I wouldn't go, but you're not a real fan. Don't speak to me. I'd still consider them to be a fan. They just aren't as insane as I am. So whether you've loved something from the very beginning or whether you've just discovered something, I say go out there and enjoy the things that make you happy, because there's plenty in this life that will make you unhappy. So, cling to the things that don't. Have a lovely week, everybody. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. You can become a real fan by clicking my floaty head to subscribe, or you can go over here to see last week's video. I'm definitely going to go before I go a bit mad. Speak to you all next week. Bye!